Welcome to Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
And in this episode, min-maxing.
Power gaming.
Thank you for watching Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about min-maxing power gaming.
And power gaming. Yep.
Now, this is an opinion.
Yeah.
In our view, opinion. Yeah. So, don't
take these criticisms personally. All right.
Right.
These are our opinions about other players who find it upon themselves to be power gamers, who are min-maxers, whatever they do. How they fit into our social group, okay? And this is our opinion, you know. And Delaney's got a lot of experience, having gamed for quite a long time, and a lot of people she's worked with, in the gaming scenarios. And we just thought we would bring this up because we always kind of talk about so and so is a power gamer, so and so is a min-maxer, and what do we mean by that?
Yeah. So anyway, I as a DM, I really don't like a min-maxing power gaming player. It's somebody who's basically out there to buck the system. The world is revolving around them.
Yeah.
And they have, to me, like once again, this is our view. It's somebody who really has no thought about the background or the build of their character. They are there to make the character as powerful as they can and to buck the system.
Yeah.
Now, within Pathfinder, is the Pathfinder Society. And within that, you are given X amount of points to build your character. And I've seen a lot of times, and I haven't done many Pathfinder Societies, but I've known people who have done it, but I've also seen it in builds when characters came in and we say, build your character upon power or points, that they will dump stat.
Yeah.
And they'll usually dump stat like charisma or intelligence. And then they don't roleplay it.
Yeah.
So if you dump stat your charisma down to a 3 and you bump your strength up to 18, okay, so yeah, you're this big, strong, stern type character, but you've got no likability to you. And people would be probably just come up and just starting to fight with you or wouldn't want to work with you or anything else. And people get mad when that happens. We had a guy in our group who would do that. Who would put his lowest stat in charisma, and then he would come into a game and try to talk his way out of things.
Yeah.
And he was quite the talker.
Yeah.
He was, when it came to role playing and talking, he was really good at it.
Yeah.
But he wasn't good at it because if your character's got a 9 charisma and you're trying to be the one talking, why are you the one doing the talking? It should be the person who's got the highest charisma.
Well, he even had lower charisma than like a 9 charisma. So he would do stuff like that where he would stat dump and end up with 17 dex, 18 strength. This sort of like con was 17 con, something like that. And then his intelligence and wisdom would be really low, and charisma would be really low. But he wouldn't let us know that. So he would role play his character as if his character was very erudite, very engaging, very communicative, and we would have the idea that he was a more level character.
Yeah.
And yet, this level character had tremendous physical abilities and amazing attacks and stuff.
Like, how are
you're
you
like,
doing
man,
that?
how's this guy doing that, man? He's got a plus 10 to hit already, and he's like first or second level. And what's going on with that, And he's able to talk his way out of these situations. Well, what we found out is that this certain person, when they were role-playing, weren't role-playing their character at all.
Yeah.
They were power gaming their way through their character. Okay.
Doing the most damage.
Yeah, doing the most damage, yet they were also trying to command the table, so to speak, because of all their... So they weren't being realistic or truthful with abilities. And I guess that's the one thing that always kind of gets me about people who min-max or power game is they're being untruthful with their abilities.
Yeah, they're not really role playing.
Yeah.
They are role
Yeah,
playing.
they're there for the combat. They're there to take over the table, to run the table, to get the charge that people have when they're able to control the table, to control other players, to even buck the DM and control the DM and run the table.
Right.
That's what they get their thrill.
And then when they get called into the table limit, they get mad and upset and
sometimes leave.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've had that happen before with characters. And when I started playing the game, which was, admittedly not that long ago, but when I started playing it,
2006, 2007.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that long ago. Maybe it was. I didn't know what a power gamer was. I didn't know what a min-maxer was. And I heard people talk about them, and I didn't really know what was going on until I had my first experience with some people in a game that we had where we had a guy, he was some kind of a fighter. He had like 2 sentient swords.
Well, there were the 9 sentient swords, and he already had a bunch of them.
Yeah, and he could like leap through the air and roll and do devastating attacks and then retreat and leaped backwards through the air and back roll. It was, and I was like listening to his attacks, and I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Is this guy like level 20?
Okay, so here's kind of an anecdote about that. So this character could do like 270 points of damage in an attack because of the weapons he had and his skills and everything else. I was playing a sorcerer, a sorceress.
Sorceress.
And it was 3.5 edition, and there was a spell in there that's like a fireball.
Yeah.
And typically, you throw your fireball, and it's this big area of effect spell, and it does, let's say your 10th level, it does 10d6 points of damage. Well, this one was a variant of that, and I could throw, I think it was 10, because it was based upon my level, and each one of them was a smaller encapsulated that was, it didn't have the radius
of a
blast, but each one of them would do 10d6, and he called me out and said that spell shouldn't be allowed, because I took out, in one combat, I took out the whole enemy force with that one spell one time. Yeah. And he didn't get to go rushing into the combat doing his 275 points of damage.
Yeah. The thing is this certain player had banked his whole role-playing experience basically on being able to run the table. And I'm the warrior, I basically, every time I roll, I do this amount of damage. I roll in, I tumble into the fight, hack and slash, kill 3 people, tumble back out, and you can't lay a hand on me because I'm so hard to hit. And then everybody else is like, okay, it's your turn. What do you do? I roll. Okay, I hit 3 points of damage. Okay, cool. And we would just go around the table like that, and I'm like, why are we even attacking? We should just let this guy handle it all, because apparently he's like a one-man army.
Yeah.
And that was my first introduction to something like some person like that who's, this terrible power gamer who decided that essentially they were going to game the system through some means, which I've never really been able to figure out exactly how they do it. Electronic data sheets now make it a little bit harder because they won't allow you to have conflicting abilities. And you can spot conflicting abilities in a second because these alarms will come up. But back to the pen and paper sheets, you could fudge, numbers around, and it was up to a DM who, admittedly, most DMs aren't math geniuses.
To go through every character sheet.
Yeah, to go through every sheet you had and try to figure out exactly what was going on to see if you were cheating or not. So it's kind of up to people to be as honest as possible, but there's an awful lot of people out there who aren't honest.
Yeah, and it's a sad thing because it not only ruins it for your DM, GM, and your other players. You're doing it for your fun, but you're taking away from everybody else's fun by ruling the table.
Yeah.
The world does not revolve around you, but yet as a power gamer, min-maxer, the game is revolving around you.
Yeah. I think a lot of people get a charge out of that. Yeah. They really do. You kind of have that in computer games too, where people hack the system so that they can have the most powerful weapons at level 4 or 5.
Yeah, or they get all this gold or whatever. They go
Yeah.
in and they do the line command. Oh, I'll get all this gold. And
yeah, they get all the gold early and they could buy whatever they want, or they jump their XP up or something like that. They hack the system and they cheat. I tend to think that people like that essentially like burn from game to game to game to game because they're chasing a momentary thrill. They're chasing that small thrill. Every time they get it, once that thrill wears off, they got to get it again. So they jump to something else and something else. And, power gamers and min-maxers are repeat offenders. They'll do it again and again and again because they're chasing that thrill.
It's almost like a cheater. Somebody who uses dice that are, oh, I rolled, I hit when they actually didn't hit.
Yeah, I mean, we used to make, I'm not going to say that person's name. We used to make them roll out in front of us so they couldn't lie about their dice. Yeah. We would make them roll on the table so everybody could see what it was, and we knew what the stats were. We're like, oh, you blew that one.
It's because they've been caught cheating a few times.
Yeah, because they got caught cheating on their dice. Which is, it's not fair. It really is not fair to everybody else who's honest.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way. It shouldn't be that way.
It's an honor system.
It is an honor system. And it's unfair to other players who are trying to be the best that they can be.
Right, who come up with a concept of their character and follow through with that concept.
Yeah.
Instead of, I'm just going to be the most powerful person. There was the guy that was the fighter who was afraid of fire, but yet when fire came around, he didn't run away.
Yeah. He supposedly, he was afraid of fire in essentially a world where everything was lit by fire. Yeah, well, whatever.
You've heard us talk about this before.
It's just ridiculous. But, to kind of talk about how people, when they min-max and stuff, how they try to rule the table, they really diminish the experience for the other players. Because they're there to have a good time. They're there to role play. They're there to create a fully fleshed out character that they can, inhabit and that they can work it. One thing I found is that the characters that we've had, or the players we've had in our games, who have been power gamers, have not taken the time to create any kind of a backstory or anything like that. In fact, most of them are barely able to put together a name for their character. They're just there to engage in the thrill of combat. Yeah. They don't really care about origins. They don't care about deities. They don't care about economics. They don't care about appearance. They don't care about anything. They're just like, oh, that's my guy. He's real big. He's got a sword. Yeah, he's got a plus 15 to hit. You're like, where'd all this come up? What's his name? Bart. Bart.
Yeah,
okay,
Bart's a Minotaur. He's basically got 42 hit points. It's your first level. Yeah, but he's a Minotaur.
He's a Minotaur. So. Yeah. Where's Bart from? He's from all around. Does Bart have a backstory? No. It's like, well,
Bart's a Minotaur.
We all worked on our backstories. Look, here's mine. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where's yours? No, I don't. Yeah. I don't do anything. I don't have time. I don't do anything like that.
So to kind of get into the whole min-maxing and thing, I had a fighter once, and her best skill was basically her strength and her dex, and her wisdom was low, and I had her. With her wisdom being low, she didn't make the best choices. She didn't like other races because she saw that they were inadequate. And when I got points for my character, I wasn't dumping them into the strength or the dex or the con. I was dumping them back into her wisdom to boost her wisdom up, because I was figuring, okay, she's out there in this world and she's learning that the other races have value, and so therefore her wisdom's getting better. Yeah. She's learning.
She's progressing.
She's progressing in life. And I just thought, to me, that as a build of a character made a lot more sense to me. Well, I could dump it into the strength or the dex or the con and make them a better fighter, but to me it made more sense to not dump it into that, to dump it into their wisdom while they were working around dwarves and elves and halflings and gnomes and half-orcs, that these other, people, these other races, characters and whatever, had value.
Well, sure.
And she started to learn to appreciate them.
That's role-playing.
And, so it just made sense. Yeah. Instead of dumping stats into making her more powerful and as a better fighter,
yeah,
to making her more worldly. and understanding.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that's more what players should be doing instead of, oh, I'm just going to dump into strength. I'm going to dump into strength. I'm going to dump into strength. I'm going to dump into intelligence. I'm going to dump into intelligence.
Well, see, one of the things you do when we level up in your games is you make us take different sorts of feats.
Right.
Every number of feats or whatever has to be non-combat.
Right. Your regular feats. Now, if you're a fighter and you get combat feats, your combat feats are still combat
Yeah,
feats.
that's different. But if you have other feats, you have to take other stuff.
Right. Every third level has to be a non-combat feat.
Yeah.
Now, whether that is improving your ability to save on will saves,
Yeah.
or maybe you're becoming healthier, or you're becoming more acrobatic, or you're
Yeah.
focusing on
Something
a
like
skill, or whatever.
Yeah. So that really helps improve the role-playing aspect of your character and the character building, so that you don't create someone who's just basically a one-dimensional fighter, a mercenary who just goes around and
Grog.
goes
as an
around and,
axe.
like, chops people constantly, and when they're not chopping people, they're either sleeping or getting drunk, and then they get up and they chop more
Yeah.
people.
It's looking upon it as growth as the person.
Yeah.
We as people, and even though RPGs are an escapism, to me, it's a growth.
Yeah.
We learn through our jobs and through society and education, and we grow. And while we might be this meathead of a person working out, if we're going out and doing other things and helping other people, then shouldn't our wisdom get better? Or maybe we pick up books and we start reading and say, oh yeah, I'm this meathead and I'm real strong, but I'm reading this book about engineering. I'm going to start learning something about engineering.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it creates a more balanced, well-rounded character, and it really can improve the gameplay. If you just flat out don't want to play a character that has any kind of balance or depth, and you just want to play a pure fighter who's, then all you're ever really going to be doing in the game is just rolling to attack.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, if you want to do that, fine. But don't be upset when other players in the game want to role play and have a complex character, and you're just like, I wanted more action in the game. I wanted more, excitement. I wanted more, more things happening. We were in the whole campaign like twice, and we didn't have any battles. We just like talked about economics, or we just like did traps or whatever. I wanted more. It's like, if you want more, go find a combat-oriented game.
Yeah.
Do
game
something
that has
else.
No RP. Another character I had a gnome barbarian. Gnomes don't do a lot of damage.
No, but they can be really fun to roll.
Oh man,
play.
that was a fun character to play, and it was kind of funny because the guy who liked the min-max, who liked to roll the table, he would want everyone to go do something, and that character and another person in the group who are brother sister characters, we'd do something totally opposite, and it would just make him so mad. No, don't do that. We'd go do it.
Yeah, it would infuriate the heck.
But it was so fun playing this
fun.
little gnome barbarian, and she couldn't do a ton of damage. Yeah, she raged, but gnomes aren't doing. You got a big axe sword that somebody's doing 1d10 points of damage. Okay, now I'm doing 1d8, so I'm not doing as much damage.
But it was
fun.
Fun to play a character like that.
Man, she was fun. I liked her.
Yeah.
But on the opposite end, I played a min-max character because we had a DM that was a min-maxer, and that was against the basically the spawn of
the Titan spawn.
Right, and she was a ranger fighter, so she could do a lot of damage with her bow, or she could two-weapon fight and do a lot of damage.
So, folks, here's the thing, okay? If your DM is a min-maxer, don't roll up a halfling thief who has a dagger and a hand crossbow.
Who can't do anything.
That's what I did. Because I thought, mistakenly, I thought we were going to role play our way through this game, have a lot of fun, do some adventures, do stuff like that. No, we ended up fighting Godzilla. What does my guy do? Just basically runs around in circles, trying to keep from getting squashed. Everybody else is throwing fireballs and 100-point attacks and everything else, and my little guy is like, oh my gosh, look out, yeah. Because I mistakenly assumed that we'd be playing a game that'd be heavy on the role play. I didn't know it was going to be a total combat game.
Yeah, and I learned pretty quick because I've got all this experience.
Yeah.
And that's why I was double building this ranger, this elven ranger who was also a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I took 2 levels as a ranger, then a level as a fighter, then a level as a ranger, and a level as a fighter, and a level so I was getting feats. I was getting all these feats really, really, really quickly.
Yeah.
So she was doing a ton of damage, and I built her that way.
And,
Because,
people
that's what
leveled
the game
fast.
was.
Yeah,
That's what the game was.
People leveled fast, and so you got a lot of levels, a lot of feats, a lot of characteristics, advantages, and everybody was taking combat stuff. Well, my little halfling thief guy, the best thing he could do is like take dodge stuff or stealth things, and just to try to prevent him from getting hide and sneak, so you can keep from getting killed.
He had a pretty high deck, so that kind of helped you out. But
he had a very high deck, so he could climb really well.
Yeah.
But I think the one adventure he had to climb up
and
a
I think
wall
you had a
to get
cloak
into
of
a window.
invisibility that helped you out, that
Yeah.
kept you out of trouble.
So, I
So,
mean,
Anyway, yeah, min-maxing, it really does ruin the game. Whether it's for the other players or for the DM, unless the DM is part of that.
in our opinion.
In our opinion.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we hope that you like, share, subscribe, spread the word, and make comments, because we love getting comments, and we reply to them. But anyway, we want to thank you for watching this episode of Wizards of the Tower.
Role play.
May all your adventures be epic.
And keep on rolling.
Thanks, folks.